welcome, Michael, to Metallurial Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about now. Well, the first time we spoke about the Dark Tranquility album. Now we spoke about the last album from Grand Cadaver, a project with well-known people in the Swedish scene, etc. So we're starting, I think, with a common question. When did you decide, all members, when did you decide to create this project, Grand Cadaver?
Well, it started, what was it, like 2 years ago, maybe. Me and Alex, who plays guitar and writes most of the stuff, he lives close, and we started going to shows together before the pandemic, and we just started like hanging out and realized that we liked the same kind of music. And of course that led to, beer drinking here in our area. We live a couple of houses from each other. So, and also I guested on his other band, his solo project, basically, Nova Rupta's album. And that worked out great, and it was fun, and we had a blast kind of talking about music. And then Alex asked me, it's like, hey, we tried to start this death metal band a while ago, but it didn't really work out. Like, do you want to be a part of it? And I was at a point where I was just saying yes to basically anything. I was kind of like, hey, I want to, this is what I want to do. I'd kind of quit my day jobs, and I wanted to kind of focus on just writing. And we had just finished the latest Dark Tranquility album. So I said, yeah, cool. Send me a couple of songs, and we'll talk about it. And I got some songs, and I recorded kind of like a quick demo for Alex, and he was like, all right, cool, this is going to be great. And then he said, like, well, Daniel Liljeqvist wants to be a part of it, and it's like these old school people that I've known but have never played together with. So, and Stefan Liljegren was kind of like, an old friend, and of course I was a big fan of his years with Treblinka and Tiamat in the early days, which was super cool. And then we also asked Christian, who's an old friend of mine and kind of started out in the Gothenburg scene at the same time as I did. So it just made perfect sense, and we just had a blast. We recorded the first album in 5 days in total, which was very rare. Yeah, I just recorded like the DT album that was 9 months or something like that, and we did the Halo Effect album in 6 or 7 months, and then we did one album in 6 days or less. And so it was very refreshing in that sense, where we go by instinct, basically, because we've been doing this for such a long time, all of us in different kind of forms. So now that we come together, it's just the most natural thing we could possibly think of, and that I've loved that about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, other questions about this from the Grand Cadaver is that, as you told you too, so that all members are busy with their own projects, with the Halo Effect, with Dark Tranquility. So how do you gather to do gigs, tours with this new band? Because with the both albums are great Swedish death metal in the vein of the old style, etc. So we love this kind of stuff, and I think a lot of people are requesting you, hey, when will be available Grand Cadaver to play live? No, we can't, because Michael Stanne is a gig with Dark Tranquility, with Halo Effect, or Daniel is like the same, etc. So how do you gather all people to do gig tours, or this band will be just perhaps a studio band?
No, I think, I mean, it's not easy, of course, but so far we've done a few shows here in Gothenburg. We supported some cool bands, and we've done festivals, and it's when we have time. We live in different parts of Sweden as well. Daniel lives way up north, and Stefan is in Stockholm, and me and Alex and Christian are here in Gothenburg. So it's not easy, but at the same time, like, we want this to be different. If we can tour, then we will, and if we do more shows, of course we will, and we're already planning some stuff for the future. But of course, it's up to all of our schedules. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it is already happening, and we're gonna do some more shows for sure. It's fun, but of course, for me, it's a nightmare. But I have a very strict calendar. I know exactly where I'm going to be at all times, so it's easy to plan things in advance.
Okay. Well, one thing that I saw in all your progress, everything you play nowadays, or everything you touch we touch with Grand Cadaver, Hell Effect, all bands are completely successful. Grand Cadaver has a great reviews. That Tranquility is amazing band. Hell Effect, another band. So how do you define the success in your career? Because it's very different from other musicians, because you play in two bands for more, though two bands that are so important, and now Grand Cadaver will be one other important band in the world. So how do you define this success? For you, is the fans, they buy stuffs, the listeners in YouTube, who knows? How do you define this aspect for you?
Well, I mean, I think it's mostly it is about, like, you know, finding the right people to work together with. You know, it's easy, of course. Like, throughout the years, I've been asked to you know, sing on an album, sing on a few songs here and there, or join other bands or form new projects, and it's never really felt right, or you're not really sure of the people you're working with. It can be exciting, but maybe just a waste of time, or it's an investment time, but it will take forever and you won't be able to properly do it. So what I love about doing these things now is that everything has its own kind of time. And we say, like, well, for me, Dr. Tranquility is first and foremost. And then, of course, when Halo Effect is going out, we go out. And then when we have something with Grand Cadaver, that's what we do then. So, and I've been fortunate to find amazing people that I want to work with. And we're having the best time, and it's just like a natural feeling, you know. When Niklas approached me about the Halo Effect, he had some songs, and I was like, yes, I can attribute to this. And when Alex showed me some old school death metal stuff, and I felt like immediately, I was like, yeah, I know exactly what to do here, you know. So it wasn't that much of a challenge, and I think that's why it works, because it's very spontaneous. It's very driven by kind of fun and lust and kind of passion for the project. You know, it's not about kind of reaching some kind of success or being this or that. It's just, this is fun, this feels great, and we're having an absolute blast doing it. And I think for me that it's successful just in terms of us coming together and making music together and rehearsing and recording. And if people dig it, that's awesome. You know, that's a great bonus. But the intention is always to kind of like challenge yourself and have fun together. You know, that's why I got into this in the first place, you know, 30 plus years ago.
Yes. Well, we are focused more on these new deities of the dead, like sleep. And as you can see now, the people are listening to music just by singles. We're in a retro movement. The retro movement, because in the 40s, the 50s, the music spread just by singles all that time. And now we are living this epoch again. So how in a world that in a new generation that prefers now singles, even the playlist in all digital platforms, etc. So why don't you continue to do albums in a world that prefers just singles? And for you, with this aspect, which single of this new album capture whole essence for this new one?
Ooh, I know what you mean because of course for me, like, I grew up with albums. That's what I love. That's what I want. You know, it's you hear me? Hello?
Yep, I can hear you. You
Hello?
frozen.
Fuck.
Yes, you frozen.
Okay, good.
Yeah, now.
No, I think, like, what's and of course, I grew up with albums, and I wanted whole album, and I still do. You know, I buy records. I love vinyl. Whenever a band that I like or something new comes out, I listen to that first single, and I go like, oh, I don't need any more, because if I love that one, I'm going to buy the album when it comes out, and it's going to be awesome. You know, that's how I work. But of course, labels don't work like that, and a lot of fans actually prefer to listen to, you know, like piecemeal ways of listening to an album. You know, just, you know, when the singles come out, you put it in your playlist or whatever, and you listen to that, and that's fine. So I think it's just like a different way. I can find it kind of frustrating when you finish an album, you go like, okay, this is awesome. I want the world to hear it. But then you have to wait, for 6 months or more in order to kind of slowly release singles, because that's the kind of feeding the algorithm, the song, so that the playlist will get full and all that. I try not to think about it. But I realize that's the reality right now. And it's interesting for a new band like this to do it, because we know like how the kind of audience grows with each single that we do. So it's a good thing, even though we have to wait. So it's cool. And I think when we started releasing singles for this album, or when we started talking about it, we're like, okay, what do we do? What songs are going to be, the perfect kind of singles? And that's always the hardest part, because we have a different idea about it, but I think like for this album, like A Crawling Feast of Decay was probably one of the first songs that we wrote. And Alex sent me this idea. It's like, do you know what scaphism is? And I was like, what? It sounds weird. And then I looked it up, and immediately I came up with a lyric that was just horrible and fun to write. And we were kind of off, like with the album. And even though we wrote it like in different parts of the world, I was traveling in Japan, and I was sitting on the plane just writing these horrible gore-filled death metal lyrics, and Alex was in his room here in Gothenburg, and Daniel was rehearsing up in the north. We came together and we made this album. And I think with each release, I think you learn more and more how this album is different from the last. And now it's only, what is it, 3 weeks until it comes out. So I'm super excited. But it is a weird time to live in, but at the same time, of course, it's very luxurious and amazing that you can choose exactly how you want to listen to music. And every option is open to you. And I mean, if someone had told me this, when I started collecting records, I would have chosen this, right? Even though as an old dude now, I go like, oh, come on, let's go back to the old days where I traded tapes, with people all over the world just in order to hear new stuff,
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, one things that I saw in your three projects is the difference about the lyrics, because in Dark Tranquility you speaks about your experience, emotions, feelings. Now the Halo Effect speaks about other kind of things, and now Grand Cadaver for me is like a band directly to the bone, because you speak about the death, darkness, evil, horror, the classic stuff from the death metal. This is normally. So why always death metal for you especially needs to talk about this kind of topics or subjects, death, horror, evil, perhaps is. And I think I think you love the horror movies. That's normal, because I think whole metal hell in the world loves the horror movies than the romantic or than
Without a doubt.
So perhaps with this aspect, we are more focused or more leaned down to the horror life, perhaps. Who knows?
I think so. It's a fascination with that. It's a fascination with things that were different. And of course, that attracted me to death metal in the first place when I was 14, 15, and I saw, the album covers, and I started reading, read the titles of songs, and I went like, holy shit, what's going on here? I have to find out what this is from, and of course, I looked up all the movies that bands had referenced, and I thought it was fascinating, and I loved it. But at the same time, like when we started Dark Tranquility, we wanted to get away from that as much as possible in order to make original music, and write lyrics that no one else was doing. So I've been trying to get away from all of this for my entire, musical life. But at the same time, I still love it, but it's not just something that we decided not to do with Dark Tranquility. Like it's a lot about darkness, a lot about, very negativity or, despair and negative emotions and that kind of stuff. But what's so fun about this is it's just horror, the most brutal things imaginable, trying to not use too many cliches, but at the same time, of course, we got to do it just because it feels so good and it fits perfectly with the music. And I'm having a blast writing these songs. And then I send it to Alex and Christian, and they go like, "Holy fuck, you're twisted, dude! Like, what's going on with you? Are you okay?" You know, and that's the fun part. And I think it just makes perfect sense together with this kind of music, this sound, and the way that it's written as well. Like, we write everything super fast. You know, Alex writes a song in an evening, and I sit around like in the mornings or in the afternoons and just having a couple of beers and just like comes up with weird stuff that feels right, you know. So it's very liberating to write like this, for sure. Everything else I put a lot of effort and time into, whereas this is just like pure passion and fun, you know.
Okay. One aspect about these Grand Cadavers, as I told you, is that you had a well-known musicians into the lineup.
Yep.
So this Grand Cadaver has more approach to the more people because always know you as a frontman for other bands, etc.
Yeah.
And for you exactly, what are the biggest difference that exists with these two both albums with the Grand Cadaver compared to the rest? A lot of music now is coming a lot of people are playing like you, that all Swedish death metal. So, but you has more attention because you are in there, Alex there, Chris is there. So a lot of music. Well, no. So for you, what is the biggest difference exists with Grand Cadaver compared to a lot of bands are releasing now music?
Yeah, but it's true. Like there's no shortage of like old school death metal bands that are playing, you know, this kind of, you know, 90s Stockholm sound. That's for sure. And we kind of knew that going in, so we didn't set out to be original or anything like that. That's not what it's about. But I think like Alex has a very unique way of thinking about music that was really attractive to me, and it was very different from what we do in any of my other projects or bands. And I think like, and also Daniel, who's, you know, he's played all, you know, this prog rock with Catatonia, and he's played like super, you know, fast blasting death metal stuff. So he knows everything. So just them together was so interesting to me. And once we got to writing, like we realized that we can do very accessible and kind of song driven death metal songs, you know. And sometimes that's something I miss when I listen to new, really intense death metal. Like it's all about brutality and it's about kind of being the fastest or the most brutal or the most down-tuned or whatever. But for us, it's finding that sound, but also make it, you know, song focused, where it has like a chorus that you can remember, or it has like this catchy riff that really works, something that kind of sticks out, and it's a bit more, I don't know, I wouldn't say approachable, but like more, like classic song structures and ideas, I think. And that was also interesting to me, to kind of use the stuff that Alex writes and also make it somewhat approachable from a vocal perspective as well, and not just go the entire time, you know, even though that would be lovely.
Okay. So we're not talking about the aspects of the durations, especially when I remember when I read an interview with Fenris for Darkthrone, and he told everybody that the good way to hear an album is you have 40 minutes of full length. That's the way you need 40 minutes, and it's a great album. Will be the great album. For you, this album is more than 40 more than 30 minutes. So what's your opinion? Did you think that the album needs to be exactly 30 minutes or 40 minutes to be good?
No, but there's something about that, you know, like kind of depending on what music it is. But I think just it's like 45 minutes is pretty much perfect, you know. If you can fit, you know, 10 or 20, 12 fantastic songs in there on two sides of vinyl, that's amazing. That's as good as it gets, I think. You know, as much as I love, you know, double album, triple albums, and prog rock albums that go on forever. But if you can say what you need to say and kind of get out before the 45-minute mark, I think that's pretty damn sweet. And so I agree, like, especially when it comes to really intense music, like, you know, like death metal, like over 50 minutes, and then you're maybe just wasting time.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
talking about the promotion of this new album, what
Yep.
kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will embark a tour. Well, you told me there's a very difficult to gather all members to do a tour. Perhaps you will do a tour with this new album in Europe, some gigs here, there, or perhaps in the US, or who knows, Latin America, because you're very close.
It would be awesome, and and we're all kind of looking forward to doing more shows. The ones that we've done have been amazing, and it's been super cool. And we're just kind of like finalizing all of our schedules to kind of fit this in as well. I'm not going to even be home for the release of this one. I'm going to South America actually next week, so it's kind of frustrating, but at the same time we are playing, and we're going to do some shows here in Sweden first, and we're looking forward to like festivals next spring and summer as well. Already talking to some cool promoters over here in Europe, and so it's happening for sure. Like I think whenever we played live, it's been fantastic. We did one tour together with At the Gates here in Sweden, right at the end of the pandemic, basically, when everything kind of started opening up, and that was incredible and a lot of fun. So yeah, that it is the plan, and everybody wants to do it. So it's just a matter of making it happen.
Okay. Well, as I said in the first question, talking about other kind of topics. Now, and you told me that you will be here in South America, or Latin America in general, because you will play first at Candelabrum Metal Fest. By the way, I will be there in the Candelabrum, seeing
nice,
you,
cool.
Tranquility and the Halo Effect. So it's a great opportunity to see
double duty at one festival. That's my first. Yeah.
Yes. So, and then you will do a Latin American, a South American tour in Colombia, Chile, and more, and other cities. So, what kind of set list are you preparing for this new arriving here without Tranquility? Because Moment didn't has a good promotion here because the was released during the pandemic.
So, no, exactly, it was during. Yeah. No, it's different. We've been rehearsing a lot of old and new songs, and it's actually fun. Like we are really changing things up. Like we played 35 songs or something like that or more on the last tour. So we have a lot in our back pocket. So it's going to be different every night, I think, for all of the shows that we're doing. We started in Finland this week, and then Portugal next, and then then Chile first, I think, then Colombia, then Mexico, and then I go with the Halo Effect to America. But it's going to be very different. So both old school and new, which I really love, and I love the way that it sounds now. With some of the new guys we have in the band are fucking incredible, and so we can get away with pretty much everything, and it's fun to rediscover songs that we haven't played in 10, 15 years. It's incredible. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Okay. Well, as I told you, talking about all this aspect, I remember that I read, and I spoke with Christopher from Tyrion. I spoke with Devin Townsend, with Ray Adler from Fates Warning, and all these kind of musicians are very worried about the flight tickets are raised up. The bus to rent in Europe doing tours is too high now. I think 15 grand to rent a bus during the tour is a huge price for a tour. So a lot of things happen now after the pandemic. So a lot of rises up to do a tour especially in Europe, but I think in US too. So what is your opinion about now the music industry after the pandemic? If we are returning to the old ways, or we are passing with a hard days, because a lot of bands are canceling tours now. Even the pandemic's not without us anymore.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. I mean, it is really, really difficult to tour right now. Not only because everybody who didn't, who been dying to get on the road during the pandemic is now out. So for the first year, it was kind of crazy. We toured in America, and it was every night was like a show somewhere around the area. So for fans, it was like, holy shit, can we afford to go to all these shows? And it's the same in Europe, actually. Like every single tour bus is rented out. So of course they can raise the prices high as they want. All the venues that have been closed are dying to get some money back from, you know, the lost 2 years basically. And of course bands want to get paid. So it's kind of like an impossible situation, you know. It's not like there's way more fans out. It's more competition rather. And also, yeah, gas prices are way up because of the war. And so it's really rough. Like you have to think about that. And yeah, airfare is insane. It's more than double the price since 19. And of course you're traveling in a big tour party, you know, you're 10, 15 people, and it's, you know, like $1,000 or more each, sometimes just to go to Europe, mainland Europe. And it's insane. And that means you need like a way bigger wage for a festival, which they cannot pay you. You know, they cannot go up 100%, you know. So that's the rough part. And I really understand bands that are actually canceling tours, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, might as well wait till it does make more sense, or you can have more reasonable expectations. And so it is rough, but it's of course it's doable. But it kind of depends on what you expect and what you're willing to kind of do. You know, either you cut down on some of the expenses, or you make sure that you have like the strongest package on the market right now, that everybody wants to come to see your show in particular, and maybe skip a few others. So yeah, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, other aspects in these questions about now the music industry. I remember you told me a few minutes ago that that you love to collect, to listen to music, buy vinyl, CDs, etc.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that you collect. And you're still hearing the music. Me too, because I remember when I discovered magazines at the 80s, and I saw a cover art, and I love that cover art. I want to buy it just for the cover art. That's amazing at that times. I remember, but now the things completely change. The algorithms is now the working of to select music. You don't do anything, just the algorithms. So and with this aspect, I remember that I read an article about the algorithms who is now is dominating the preference into the entertainment industry, because now all the algorithms recommend the movie, the music, what you see in general. So for this aspect, and obviously the free will is loosened by the new generation, because they don't want to select, just pick one. If like not, this is different. It's different, the free will. So with this article said that the free will is losing the battle against the algorithm. So for that, what is your opinion about now? The algorithm is more present into the select music or entertainment in general, and the free will. And are you agree with this? The free will are losing the battle with the algorithm.
I don't know. Like back in the day, it was, you know, who could afford to be on the cover of a magazine or the back of a magazine, or have the most kind of, you know, advertisement in magazines, right? So that's who kind of were chosen for you. You know, it's like you should know that the new album of this and that band comes out, and then it was hard. Then you had to kind of find out the other stuff, you know. And so it's kind of like the same now, where the algorithm gets fed by the record companies and the people who actually pay money in order to get on those playlists and get on top of those charts or whatever. So it's not that different, you know. And of course, back in the day when we had, you know, we watched television or movies, it was on TV and someone else made that choice for you, you know, and you just said you choose channel and that's it. Whereas now you have infinite choices about music and movies and entertainment, but so the algorithm helps to kind of show you what you maybe like, you know. But I don't know. For me personally, I try to kind of not fight against it, but I very much prefer to find my own stuff. And I have my channels, you know, I go to certain websites where there are articles about new music or reviews or recommendations. And I buy that when I listen or when I buy new music, you know, or I find it on Bandcamp, or I find it on, you know, stuff like that. I don't have Spotify or Tidal choose for me, you know. I look it up myself, because that's part of the fun for me. You know, that's how I grew up with it, and that's what I love to do. And it's the same with movies. You know, I know my favorite directors. I know the people I like. And then I listen to a lot of podcasts about music and TV and movies. And that informs me what I am interested in. And then I will look that up, and I will, you know, buy the DVDs, or I will, you know, put on Netflix or whatever. So I think you can choose. If you want to let the algorithm choose for you, that's fine, you know, and it's a lazy choice, but maybe it's the most comfortable one. But for me, the fun part is finding it out yourself and do a little research, finding out, like trying to figure out like what you like. You know, I use this service called Rune that is connected to kind of Tidal, my account. And it's also, it looks up a lot of similar music, and it's not an algorithm. It's like, it's a user generated. So if a lot of people listen to the same kind of music as you, then you get the recommendations from them. And it's only music geeks and, you know, record collectors and stuff like that who hang out there. And it's fucking awesome. For me, I find so much music through that, and it's through other fans of the same genre, instead of, you know, people who paid to be on that playlist or whatever. So those are the ways that I find music. And so I don't think like the choice is taken away from you, and it's not about free will, it's about choice, you know, and you can choose not to decide, but you still have made a choice, as my favorite Canadian band Rush says. So it's up to you, you know. You can choose if you don't want to be part of that, or if you don't want to get influenced by it.
Okay, one of the last questions before we will leave in completely this interview. I remember that 1 year ago, 2 years ago, that Nergal from Behemoth told in a magazine, when interview, said that the new bands needs to focus on other things, not just in music, because the music is too saturated now with productions. So now, and just the well-known bands like Dark Tranquility, where you are great musicians, are things but have things established, because you will know people, you will sell records because you will know people. But now, so are you agree with this kind of stuff, that the new bands are no more focused anymore in the music and just focusing other kind of things in life?
I know what he's saying, and I've talked to Mikael about this as well, how it's frustrating, because I don't think you know, we stop focusing about music, but there are definitely bands that do that, because they realize that you know, if you have enough likes, or if you have enough views, whatever, you know, interactions on social media, that will charge, you know, your listenership. And it's very easy, you know, if that's what you like, you know, if you hang out at, you know, social media sites, and then you get fed by all these bands who look super cool and they do all these kind of crazy stuff that you like, then maybe you listen to that music instead of something else, you know. But I think it's always been like that. Look at, you know, that's what fucking Kiss did back in the 70s and 80s, you know. And all these kind of shock rock bands that we grew up with, that we loved, you know. So I'm okay with it, but of course it is frustrating to know that needs to be part of what you do. Back in the day, you could just release a great album and that was it. Now that's really not enough, really. Like, you need other source of income, and you need other forms of kind of reaching out to people. And now, of course, you have all these tools at your disposal, you know, where you can reach 1 million people, you know, with just a little tweet or a fucking, you know, or a picture, you know, of yourself hanging out with, you know, someone at a festival, that kind of thing. And that's awesome, but it's not for everybody, and it's definitely not for me. It's something that I'm not comfortable with most days. I'm not a fan of having to do that, you know, where it's like that's needed. You talk to the label and they go like, "Whoa, you need to be on TikTok." And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. You know, like, maybe we can just hire someone to does that for us. But it does help, of course, and you can tell that it's easy to see the numbers. You can talk to anyone who has, like, you know, many followers on Instagram. They also have a lot of listeners, and it's not always the other way around, where the music drives that. It can be the other way around as well. And and of course it's a good marketing tool, but I consider it like a necessary evil. But for me, and I think for most bands, like the music is an absolute main focus. Then of course making cool content, doing fucking cool videos and all that stuff, and everything around, and merchandise and all those things are something that you need to do as well in order to kind of survive financially, and also to get seen and heard and noticed and all those things. So it's a way bigger kind of machinery around the music nowadays. And so, but for me, I've always I wanted to write. I want to write, and I want to record, and I want to hang out in the studio, and I want to create things. Then when that's done, I want to move on to the next thing and do that all over again, you know, instead of being part of a marketing campaign that takes, 4 months or 6 months, it can be very, very frustrating. But I realize that's part of the game, and it can be if you can be part of controlling it, and if you have like a great team that you work with, and it can be a blast. Like doing something like this, talking about music, I love it. I'm happy doing this every day. But maybe not tweeting or doing TikToks. I can do with that.
Okay. Well, Michael, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me.
Absolutely. Great talking to you again, man.
Great to meet you again. Well, the first time we spoke just by audio. Now we are face to face.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pleasure to talk with you. So perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect, some of your Grand Cadaver. Well, now we will receive.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a busy year. Like, a new album coming out in 3 weeks.
Yes.
And next year I have 2 albums coming out, 3 albums actually. Two that you will know, 1 secret one, and
okay.
Things are happening. It's good times, and of course we're on a tour like crazy as well. So, and we're coming. This is just the first taste of like South and Latin America shows. We're going to do more in the coming year, and I really look forward to it. This is it's going to be amazing, and keep checking the algorithm, because we're going to be there.